Welcome to the white box tour of my test project, Project Veritas. This test project is created to kind of combine a few months worth of self-taught learning in a workflow that sometimes starts in the Shaper 3D app using the Apple Pencil on the iPad. Sometimes it starts in Blender, but the idea is to create the objects in Shaper 3D using the Apple Pencil on the iPad, move them into Blender, for some lighting and animation, and then FBX them out to Unity, which is what we are in now, and I use for VR. Um, let's start with the C# scripting. Large part of that, not only in learning the different types of packages and settings and things I'd need in a project, but was to create a full locomotion and smooth turning XR character rig controller for my camera. My head is acting as the camera, and then I have my avatar's hands, and eventually, in addition to fully animated fingers, hands, I'll have like wrist storage here, and maybe some other avatar parts that you see. Also, fully interactable objects, like this sphere here. You can see the real-time shadows and the hand hider script functioning, as well as some very basic physics. The real-time shadows being caused by the directional light with Skybox acting as a sun source. We also have spent some time today learning light baking and light maps. And over here I've got a yellow directional light that's a mixed lighting source, so it's partially baked, not producing any shadows. You can see the effect that it's having on the Stargate here, that yellow light. And then there's a point light over here that's fully baked to help illuminate the front of the Stargate. And this was all very interesting because a lot of it has to do with, for me anyway, which objects are in which layers, mask culling, and also how certain objects cannot be set to static to participate in the light map baking because they're not correctly built. For example, this ground ramp, I just simply made a real quick planer. It's one-sided, and so I had to, include that. That had to be culled because it was creating some issues with baking the light map onto the Stargate. But other than that, the Stargates are kind of an inside joke. This will be fully animated at some point with particles and additional lighting for the outside chevrons, but it's an inside joke to serve as a purpose to another feature I've been working on, or teaching myself, which is multi-scene editing. So now we are in a new scene. All the lighting is set up very similarly. In fact, one of the things is you can see that the directional light there affecting my hand, the character controller, and then also there it is, you can see it really well there. Also the blue light that's invisible here, the point light, doing the same. This is the corridor sequence that I've been working on. I created this in Shaper 3D using the Apple Pencil and on the iPad, and then brought it into Blender. And I had previously animated this door sequence in Blender, but given the fact that I had to teach myself animating in Unity, I actually ended up reanimating these doors in Unity because its keyframe editor has to work in unison with creating an animation controller file, and that has to do with machine states. And so that's how it knows how to, it's not just like, oh, hey, box collider, walk into the box collider, play animation. I mean, it's kind of like that, but there are a lot of other factors that go into the animation controller that you kind of have to take into account, and I had to learn that. So eventually I would love to just bring these keyframes in from Blender and then make them work harmoniously with the animation controller graph, but for now I just reanimated them. So each one of these doors has collision detection on it for the player rig. Again, you can see the area lights affecting the player hands. So the colliders, the box colliders, to me perform a little slow for their size. I'd like these doors to open a little snappier, but that's something I can solve down the line. Right now they're functioning and I'm pretty ecstatic about that. So each one of these segments will be, receive materials and some shaders. I'm going to work on the shader graph next, learning that. But you can see each is an area light. And this was mostly just to demo the interaction between the player rig and the doors. So eventually, the Stargate system, I'll probably lose that, and for this scene anyway, and you'll just be transported right into the host segment area of the Satellite of Love, with probably an option to view the model externally when it's completed. But essentially, you'll just come right into the host segment area, and then you'll have the ability to interact with each of these door segment areas as you see in the show. And then maybe I'll build a theater on the other end that I can load movies into or stream movies into with friends. I mean, this is kind of like an idea of Oculus home area. I did do this project originally in HDRP, which is fine for PC VR, which I'm running it in now, as you can see with the cable. But I actually moved it into the universal render pipeline, and that way I could produce an Android APK to share with friends for testing. Right now I've tested that. It's deployable as an APK and it works great. It's optimized on the Quest 2. I just need to test it on the Quest 1. And then lastly, one thing I'd like to improve upon is this is actually a third scene. So as you can see, what I mean by that is if we pick up this ball and we drop it, if this were a puzzle game and we went into this next room and we came to this door, for example, and decided, oh, we can't enter the next area, we need to return to the work that we completed in the previous room. Because I set this up as a third scene, what ends up happening is the ball has reset. And so there might be some things, actions the player takes in this space that we do not want to reset. And I think that can probably be solved with scripting. Right now, I just have the scene duplicated and the XR rig turned 180 degrees and placed up here so that it appears that you walked through the Stargate. But I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. It's been a lot of fun to make. Yeah, thanks for watching.